Balistreri, the curator of science fiction and popular culture for special collections at the University of Iowa's main library. And we're standing in the basement of the main library, and all around me are the unboxed treasures of the Rusty Hevelin Collection. And I have the honor to be the curator of that collection and many other fine science fiction collections.
Last time we were here, we saw a lot of storage boxes. Are these from those boxes, or what part of the collection is this?
Yes, the last time you came, you saw all of the boxes still full of all of their wonders. And all of Hevelin is now completely unboxed. That's close to 400 boxes. Everything's completely unboxed and out on these shelves now, including close to 10,000 fanzines, and I don't even know how much convention materials that are being stored upstairs in a different room in the library. And we're looking at some of Rusty's Pulp collection right here. An absolutely wonderful collection of thousands of pulps, hundreds and hundreds of different titles in every genre of the pulps that were produced starting in really the turn of the 20th century right into the 40s and 50s.
Could you show some of the things that you're standing next to there?
Sure. So right now I'm standing in front of the Popular. This was the pulp. This one is from 1905, June 1905. This was the pulp that came out to challenge the supremacy of Frank Munsey, the man who's credited with the creation of pulp magazines. This came out to challenge Munsey's flagship pulp, Argosy, and it was given the name The Popular Magazine, and indeed, it was very popular and gave Munsey a run for his money. Then we're also, I mean, this is a pretty rich little area that we're standing in right now. We've got sports pulps, Exciting Football, and this is from 1945. We've got things like Triple X. This is from 1925. Triple X was kind of a bargain because you got Western, adventure, and detective stories in the same pulp. So that's the source of the title, Triple X. Then just one of dozens and dozens of detective titles. Lone Wolf Detective. Western. So lots and lots of Western pulps. This one is Street and Smith's Western Story magazine from 1938. And Planet Stories. So this is Planet Stories that was not the most popular of all of the science fiction pulps, but definitely one of the top. And you would see people like Lee Brackett, Ray Bradbury would be published in Planet Stories. Then things like Unknown. So this is Unknown. That's from 39. What else? The Spices. So, Spicy Detective, Riddle in Red, featuring an element that is continuously repeated in pulp magazines, The Woman in Peril. And the covers, cover after cover after cover after cover, The Woman in Peril. And this is Spicy Detective, that spicy, prefix giving you the clue that these stories are going to be a little risque, a little more adult. And here's Spicy Adventure, Space Burial. And again, Woman in Peril, He-Man with a ray gun. And they're riding on a giant bird. So this kind of thing is the thing I love, where you see that he's wearing something that almost looks like something that a gladiator would wear. He's dressed in an almost Roman or Greek, very classic kind of thing, style. He's wearing looks like almost a Norse or Viking type of a helmet, but that also looks kind of like a pilot's helmet from the 20s and 30s. He has a ray gun, so now that's bringing in a whole other element. And then it's also fantasy because they're flying on a giant bird, riding it like a horse. And he has a scantily clad woman in his arms, so, you know, he's multitasking. He's multitasking. Oh, another great detective title, Captain Satan, King of Adventure. He's also called Captain Satan, King of Detectives. Great covers. The covers were the selling point. The pulp's always being displayed in outside newsstands, usually a vertical display, each pulp clipped to a vertical rod standing outside of the newsstand. And the cover was the thing that grabbed people walking by, people looking for something to read, and, you know, would get them to make that purchase. Weird Tales. So, and then of course this goes on and on and on. What you're seeing here is the tip of the iceberg, and that's kind of the common element and feature with the Hevelin Collection. No matter what you're looking at, no matter how fantastic it is, it's always the tip of the iceberg. There's always so much more of whatever you're looking at than you can imagine. Here's Weird Tales. This is from 1928, an original story by H.P. Lovecraft, original story by C. Barry Quinn, Edmund Hamilton. So here, right there, just with those names, Bertram Russell, we're looking at some of the biggest names in pulps. And again, The Devil's Martyr. And look at that cover. And again, Woman in Peril. So over and over again, you see the same thing. With the pulps, the ads are as great as the stories. On this side, we have only $1 for 12 great detective story booklets. If you own a car, you can obtain 30 days demonstration free. New spark plugs. I want to look at the table of contents. August Derleth also has a story in this one. Donald Wandre also has a story in this one. Manly Wade Wellman, one of my favorite names of any pulp writer, Manly Wade Wellman. There's a reprint here of a weird story by Washington Irving. And so the pulps, even in the 20s and 30s, were doing reprints. So very often you'd see reprints, not you know, seeing it for the first time in print, but seeing something that had been in print, possibly in book form, much earlier. Weird Tales. And, I think this little spot that we're in right here, that's probably the most of what we have. We have, within this collection, there's every kind of format of science fiction magazine, paperback, hardcover. This one is interesting. It's a copy of Other Worlds. This is what we would call digest size. It resembles the same size as Reader's Digest was for so many years. So this is digest size. The pulps, and this being the basic size of the pulp. Some were bigger, some not smaller. Some were much bigger than this, the bed sheet sizes and other sizes. Some were much thicker than this. But this evolved into this. So by the late 40s and early 50s, what we're seeing is more the digest size. And this is a cover by Hannes Bach, one of the most famous of all science fiction and fantasy illustrators. Hannes Bach was a student of Maxfield Parrish, the great American illustrator. Maxfield Parrish considered him to be his top, if not one of his top students. We've got a story right on the cover by Ray Palmer. And it's Other Worlds. And what's interesting about this one is that the cover came out doubled. So all the images are doubled, the names on the cover are doubled, which is kind of interesting, the title. Just a little bit of an oddity. And again, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of this size in this format of science fiction magazine. We've got wonderful things like this because Rusty Hevelin collected everything and anything that he felt in any way related to the things that he loved. Here's a calendar with some great artwork for Mickey Mouse from '77. We have comics in this collection. We have some graphic novels, not many, but we have some. Here is the cover of Amazing Stories. So, Science Fiction Awards, as everybody knows, called the Hugos, comes from Hugo Gernsback, the editor of Amazing Stories and many other pulps as well. But what's so great about this one is that this one, with a beautiful, beautiful cover by Frank R. Paul, one of the deans of science fiction and fantasy illustration, who worked so much for Amazing Stories. $300 in prizes, see page 5. And what they wanted was for people to write a short story based on this cover. And that's the contest. And luckily, because Rusty was such a great collector, I have not only this issue, but I have then the issue that announces the winners, so we can see who they were too. And that's the beauty of having a collection like this, is your ability to follow stories that were serialized and see every issue, look at things like contests, look into the letters to the editor, where you can see what we would now call, referring to email, a thread. So you can see the thread of letters to the editors and see how both fans and professional writers are writing into the letter columns and starting threads that then get answered in the next issue. Someone will weigh in with an opinion 2 or 3 issues later. So you can follow these threads, and very often it might be a bit of criticism, it might be a controversy or a fan feud that's raging. So there's a lot of history, a lot of interesting things inside the pulps. And again, that much bigger format. So very different from this size. And it gets even bigger than this. And I think that's, you know, and then books, of course. 14,000 books, paperback and hardcover, of every possible, every possible kind. This is his book collection, so it's not just science fiction. But the science fiction that's here is absolutely amazing in its depth, going all the way back into the 19th century, many first editions, many signed first editions, children's books, children's science fiction, adult science fiction, just everything. The total output of different publishing houses that Rusty had standing orders with, many copies of the same book that Rusty, as a dealer, had arrangements with publishers and with individual writers to take their work to cons and to sell their work and get a percentage of the profits for himself. And so we'll have 3, 4, 10 copies of the same book, things that he was actively selling at cons right up until his death. And these are, so everything that's here on these shelves, everything that's unboxed, including the fanzines and the convention materials that, as I said, are somewhere else in the library. This is the complete Hevelin collection. Its scope is amazing. I'm going to be working and teasing stories and teasing history and interesting things out of this collection, I'm sure until I retire, you know, which hopefully won't be for at least another 10 years. They're going to have to carry me out, kicking and screaming. I'm planning on trying to work till I'm 72, but I really have a feeling I'm never going to get through all of Hevelin in only 10 years. There's just too much here. It's too wonderful, too many amazing stories, too many wonderful things to put on Tumblr, the Hevelin Tumblr account and the other Tumblr accounts of the guest curators that I'm working with here at the University of Iowa. So just an honor, a real honor and a privilege, an amazing privilege to be able to work in this collection. I think really one of the greatest science fiction collections ever.